There are estimated to be well over 10 million different types of living things on planet Earth, ranging from microscopic creatures to the blue whale. It is also estimated that 99.9% of creatures that have ever lived on Earth are no longer alive. So living things alive now represent only a tiny amount of the diversity of life that our planet has seen. In biology, we tend to refer to living things as an organism. This diversity of organisms on our planet is known as biodiversity. But how do we know if something is alive or not? We broadly define something as being alive if it has metabolism and continuity. Metabolism is the sum of all the chemical reactions taking place in an organism. So a living thing must be able to take in energy in the form of food and use it to grow and move, etc. A living thing must also display continuity, which means that it arises from other living things of the same type. Living things span generations in this way, and if a species fails to reproduce and keep up its population, it will become extinct, like the 99.9% of organisms that have lived on our planet. There are 5 key characteristics of living things that make metabolism and continuity possible: organization, nutrition, excretion, response, and reproduction. We will now go through each of these 5 characteristics in detail. The first of our 5 characteristics of living things is organization. All living things are highly organized. Living things tend to organize their bodies in a hierarchical way, starting with the organism itself, which is composed of smaller units, which themselves in turn are composed of smaller units, and so on. The basic unit of organization in all creatures is the cell. Some living things, such as bacteria or amoeba, are unicellular and made up of only one cell, but most animals are multicellular, made up of trillions of cells working in a coordinated way. If we start with an organism, we can see that the first level of organization are organ systems, several organs working together. Here you can see some of the organ systems in your body. Let's take the cardiovascular system as an example. One of the organs in the cardiovascular system is the heart. The heart in turn is composed of several tissues, one of which is cardiac muscle. And cardiac muscle tissue in turn is composed of cardiac muscle cells. We could follow this same pattern hundreds of times to the level of the different types of cells in your body. This is just one example. So you can see that living things are incredibly organized. Such a level of organization, however, does not happen naturally, and it requires energy to create and maintain. This energy requirement gives us our second characteristic of living things. Nutrition refers to the way living things obtain and use food from their surroundings to carry out the other characteristics of living things. There are 2 types of nutrition: autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. An autotroph is a living thing that can make its own food. Plants are the main examples of autotrophs. They capture energy from the sun, using this energy to combine water and carbon dioxide to make food in a process called photosynthesis. This is one of the most important reactions you will see in the course, and we will look at it again in much greater detail. Heterotrophs, on the other hand, cannot make their own food, and they have to eat other organisms to obtain energy. Animals are heterotrophs. Here, for example, you see a simple food chain. Our plant traps energy from the sun, and in growing it provides food for our first heterotroph, the caterpillar. Chameleons will in turn eat caterpillars, and they in turn will be eaten by snakes, which will again in turn provide food for our last heterotroph, the owl. In this way, energy flows from the sun through a food chain, providing all of these living creatures with the energy they need to organize and maintain the systems of organs and tissues that we've already seen. Metabolism in animals inevitably leads to the generation of waste products, which living things must get rid of from their bodies to maintain a stable internal environment. This elimination of waste products of metabolism from the body is known as excretion. Animals like ourselves tend to eliminate most of our waste through the kidneys, where we eliminate urea in urine, and the lungs, where we eliminate carbon dioxide. The liver and skin also contribute to getting rid of certain toxins. Plants, on the other hand, as autotrophs, generate less waste products, and they eliminate their main waste product, oxygen, as well as some carbon dioxide, through openings in the leaves called stomata, in a process called transpiration. Living things are part of an environment which they must interact with. For that reason, they must be able to respond to their environment, to what we call stimuli. Animals will respond to sound and touch and light using sense organs and the nervous system. In a similar way, plants will respond to stimuli in their environment too. Plants will bend and grow towards light to maximize the amount of energy they can take from the sun, a phenomenon known as phototropism. Since living things can only arise from living things, then all living things must have the capability for reproduction, our final characteristic of living things. There are two ways that all living things can reproduce, either by sexual reproduction or asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction involves the union of sex cells, whereas asexual reproduction does not involve the union of sex cells. Sexual reproduction then involves sex cells from either parent coming together, as you see here, to produce offspring that is different from both parents. It ensures change in a species from one generation to the next, and is the basis of evolution. This form of reproduction is common in animals and flowering plants. Asexual reproduction, on the other hand, does not involve sex cells, and in fact really just involves a living thing splitting in two after copying its genetic material, such that the two daughter cells are identical to each other and to the parent cell. This is how cells in your body replace themselves, and how simple unicellular organisms like bacteria or amoeba, as well as certain non-flowering plants, copy themselves to make new members of the species.